I think we still have a long way to go in order to achieve gender equality.
We haven't seen gender equality in any country. We have a lot of work to do. I, after all, remember very well the excitement of the original Beijing 25 years ago last year. But I just wanted to recall the excitement in my own country, Ireland, the excitement of women all over the world, the way that women from civil society all over the world felt they had come together and their voices had been heard, that women's rights were human rights. That was what was resonating, and what a difference that made.
Thank you, Mary. Actually, I met with many of the feminists and women who participated in the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, and I can see like the excitement they had and how much this excitement has changed.
When I was growing up, an intergenerational conversation was one way, basically. You listened to the older person, absorbed their wisdom, and that was it. Now, as I'm listening to you very carefully to, your thoughts, your ideas of how this generation equality is going to work.
For me, it's really important to have such a conversation with someone who has more experience, wisdom, who has of course who has lived many milestones when we talk about promoting and working on achieving gender equality. It's really important to combine the experience, wisdom, and long years of work and achievements, and along with the energies and enthusiasm of young people who are seeking to initiate change in their communities. And it cannot be done by one generation. It can be only done when we build on the achievements and the experience of older generation, and when we also build the capacity of the younger generation to move forward.
Can I ask you, Amani, because I'm really interested, what do you prioritize in your generation?
Actually, as a young feminist and young activist in such a very complex situation, like talking about Palestine living under occupation and being restricted in all aspects, it becomes like a multi-layered oppression for those who are living the conflict, who are living under occupation, for example. So for me, when I talk about my human rights, it becomes even harder when I describe myself as a woman, a young woman, and a mother living in a very under very oppressive, occupation that limits my ability to movement, that threatens my right to life, that also restricts all of my my freedom.
Thank you, Amani, because not only did you build on the intergenerational, but the other thing I was very impressed with is you brought out, as a good feminist, you brought out the intersectionality between the various issues, particularly in your region. The real difficulties when you're in a region where you've got discrimination, you've got poverty, you've got occupation, you've got all of those issues.
I think law is a key component of social change. So without a solid legal foundation, the attempts to make courts more accessible to women and make, like, for example, reforms to the administration of justice are likely to be beyond our reach. So first of all, in my view, it's really important to have more women in judiciary systems, women as judges, women as leaders, in order to initiate reforms. If women are not there in the legal framework, in the legal system, if women are not taking positions as judges, also as policymakers, as decision makers, no one would come and give them these rights. So we know in many countries, for example, talking about let's focus on the in MENA region, for example. In many countries, women and girls they don't have full access to justice due to different reasons. First of all, because of the ineffective also legal framework in Palestine, because they care more about like the traditional the no that the social norms and traditions than to achieve to achieve gender equality or to achieve full access to justice for women. So this have implications on women's ability also to participate in public life, and it also affects women safety and the protection of women also in the domestic sphere. This is not only in Palestine but also in many countries where they do not provide like the legal framework that does not provide the protection for women and girls from domestic violence.
I very much agree, Amani, with all of the things you said about the importance of access to justice for women and indeed young women, um, uh, women at every level. And I love the way you started. You said that law is a key component of social change. I studied law and I called it as an instrument for social justice. That was the law I wanted to learn how to do, learn how to work with clients. And I remember how empowered one particular client was, a woman called Josie Airy, who was a poor woman from Cork who wanted to get a separation from her husband. There was no divorce in Ireland at the time, and no law firm would take it because she had no money. So she wrote to the Commission on Human Rights in Strasbourg, and they gave me legal aid as a young barrister to take her case. We won the case, and it got civil legal aid right across Europe. And how empowered she felt, I'll never forget.
I think that it's also it's that in the first place it's the responsibility of the government also to provide such services and to provide such support to young women and girls and all women, of course. We need to have linkages. We need to hold accountability of those who should in the first place provide these services and support. It's really important. It's really important to have women believe in their rights and believe in the importance of demanding their rights.
And I think it's that sense of being empowered that is also the other side of access to justice. When you know you have rights and when you have somewhere where you can vindicate those rights, how empowering that is, and how not enough women have that experience for reasons that we've been saying.
I think the COVID crisis has proved already that we still have a long way to achieve gender equality, and there has been no single country that achieved gender equality so far.
Well, Amani, let me be a little bit provocative to see your response to this. So I'll be very short. I don't like the language of build back better because I don't want to build back into a system that's so unequal that COVID has shown us and exacerbated all those inequalities. I want us to build forward for equality, justice, and sustainability. What do you think?
I think I can't agree more with you, Mary, because of course we don't want to go back to the situation like before COVID crisis, because it's never been a good situation for women and girls, and we have been never satisfied of the situation of women and girls even before COVID-19, and now with the exacerbation, it means that we need to double our efforts, if not triple even, to our efforts to ensure protection for women, to achieve women access to justice, women access to services, to achieve to ensure the respect of women human rights, because of course women's rights are human rights.
But building forward, we have goal 16 on access to justice, we have goal 5 on gender equality, we have the other goal. We have to, as you say, mainstream, and maybe COVID will help us a little there, because I think COVID, by driving us all out of our comfort zones, not equally, of course, it just made the inequalities worse, but it's also linked them, as we were saying earlier. It's also brought out more compassion and more empathy. But we have now the plans of this year, Mexico first of all, and then linked to Paris after that, to work intergenerationally, and even maybe to get out of our silos altogether and see the connections between Black Lives Matter, because with COVID, it's Black and brown and indigenous peoples that are more affected by the health issues arising from COVID and the deaths arising from COVID. So linking that, linking Me Too, violence against women, all of these issues, and that's what I mean about building forward for equality, for justice, for sustainability.
I totally agree with what you said, Mary. And like we've been talking about promoting gender equality for so many long, but we have not been doing enough about it. So it's time to action. It's time to take an action, not only to address the challenges and address the gaps, because they are already addressed and we are all aware of it. But the way forward is to start taking, like doing something about these gaps and these inequalities and injustice. And my hope is to give a special attention to women living the conflict and occupation, because for some women, of course, in the world, maybe when we talk about developed countries in Europe, in US, in other countries, like their main concern about to achieve like gender parity at workplace, for example, and to have an equal pay. But in other countries, like in Yemen, in Palestine, in Syria, we are talking about the protection of their lives.
I couldn't agree with you more. And we have to disproportionately resource and support and highlight and prioritize those in conflict who are now also deeply affected by COVID.
The implication of gender inequality and injustice, it's not affecting only one group. It's not only affecting one generation. It's affecting every one of us.